Hey, what's going on? Luke here, and I can't believe we're already in round 20 of the 2021 NRL season, but here we are. It's not long left to the final, so all of these games are super important in terms of the minor premiership, in terms of who's going to make the top 4, and who's going to make the top 8. Now, there's not long left until the final series starts, so it is essential that these teams win all of these games. Now, we're just about to jump into the video and talk about my tips and predictions, but just before we do that, I just want to talk about the sponsor of my channel at the moment. It is Drum Clothing. You can see I'm wearing the beanie at the moment, but they're a business out of the Central Coast, Woy in fact, and they specialise in surf, skate, and streetwear. And as you can tell by me wearing this beanie in a lot of my videos, I'm a big fan of it. So huge thank you to Drum Clothing for jumping on board the channel. Go ahead and support them. The link is in the description for their website, but you can also go into Google and search up Drum Clothing and it will come up. So go ahead and check out their website. Anyways, we've got the intro out of the way. Let's jump into the first game of the round. We see the Sydney Roosters taking on the Parramatta Eels in what could be match of the round. I know later on we have a grand final rematch, but for me, this one is match of the round. Now, just in terms of how both the teams are travelling, in terms of injuries and that sort of stuff, I think it is quite even. The Roosters side, they do have a lot more injuries and they've had a lot of retirements and such, but Mitchell Moses being out for the Eels, I think really evens out the injuries the Roosters have. Now, the Roosters obviously just had another injury go down last week. Billy Smith is out for the season, and I think also Ikuvalu is out for a little bit, but Josh Morris comes back into the side. And if you're ever after a replacement centre, what better replacement centre than Josh Morris? He's literally playing for New South Wales a couple of years ago. So Josh Morris, fantastic player. He comes back into the side, and obviously the Eels still don't have Mitchell Moses. Junior Polo's back, but Mitchell Moses is still out, and the rest of the side is pretty full strength. But for me, the Eels, there's a lot to be desired from that side. Like, we know how good they can go, but I'm just not sure they have it. They've got Jacob Arthur who's come in, and I haven't really been too impressed with him. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Kyle Flanagan, if anything. But Dylan Brown really needs to step up. Gutherson needs to step up. Reid Marnie should be good, but obviously he's going to take a little bit of time to get his feet back into the NRL after being out for a little while. Yeah, this Roosters side, I think they have the potential to upset the Eels. And I don't even know if you consider it an upset, because the Roosters, they are a really, really good side. They're pushing for a top 4, as are the Eels. But look, I think I'm going to tip the Roosters for this one. I think just with Mitchell Moses being out, they need a little bit more time to gel. And I don't know, it's not really great timing for them considering they're coming into the finals. But the Roosters, they've had time to adjust to all of these guys coming in and out of the squad. They've still got Tedesco there. They've still got a lot of the main guys that they need to win. And I think the Roosters will be able to match it with them long enough that I feel like the Eels will sort of fall off a little bit. And I think the Roosters will get into a nice scrappy game with them. And I think the Roosters come out on top. I think it will be a close one. So I can definitely see the Eels winning this one. As to why they're the favourites for the game. But for me, I'm just going to go Roosters 1-12 for this. Down to the second game of the round. It is the West Tigers taking on the New Zealand Warriors. Now, a disrupted week for the Warriors. Obviously, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, the team captain, has left the club. He's been released immediately. And I don't know if that's a huge loss for them. I know obviously the leadership is there, but he's sort of been playing out of position anyway. So it's not like he was the main guy anymore. They had Reece Walsh there. They had their halves sort of set. Now, speaking of the halves, this is sort of where it does get a little bit iffy for them. And I know it's due to the whole COVID situation. They can't bring players over and such. But they got Peter Hiku playing in the halves with Sean O'Sullivan. I think that's a big, big red flag there. Purely for that reason, I just can't see the Warriors winning this one. And Roger Tuivasa-Sheck leaving. Would have been nice if he could have stayed and played this one for the Warriors. Maybe they could have put Reece Walsh into the halves and then put Tuivasa-Sheck at fullback. Maybe even with Tenny Lesniak or someone at fullback. But yeah, that halves pairing leaves a lot to be desired. And I said earlier with the Eels, but this one for sure leaves a lot to be desired. Whereas the Tigers side, I mean, it's just, I'm looking at it, it's just the same old sort of Tiger side, like pretty standard. Got Moses Mbye in the centres. They can be hot and cold. We all know that about the Tigers. It's pretty much been the Tigers for the last 10 years. They can play a really good game. They can play a really shit game. This is one of the games that they tend to play pretty shit against. Just the Warriors side, they're the underdogs. They should be winning this one. Their lineup isn't great. And yet I still feel like I have no confidence that the Tigers can win this one. I am, however, going to be tipping the Tigers. I think purely just because of the Warriors side just not really having much to it. The squad is just not that great at the moment. A lot of it's due to injuries, a lot of the COVID stuff. And the Tigers is a little bit stronger. I think if Adam Dewey, if he plays half decent, Luke Brooks plays alright, I think they should be able to get them home. But once again, no confidence in this one. I do think it's going to be Tigers 1-12, but Warriors could easily win this. Now we move on to the Queensland derby. It's the Brisbane Broncos taking on the North Queensland Cowboys, and how quickly things can change. A couple of years ago, this was the marquee game. This would have been the game of the round. This would have been the game everybody's talking about. Instead, I haven't really heard anybody talk about it at all. We go back to like 2015, 2016, 2017, however long it was. They had that spree of 1-point games, field goals kicked to decide it. You had Milford kicking them, you had Thurston, Michael Morgan, all the big guns, and none of them are still playing at the moment, and both these sides are a shell of themselves. The Cowboys, super frustrating. I can understand why they are frustrating. So we saw last week, they were really, really good last week. They got super close to beating the Storm, but they didn't get the job done. But that's not the reason they're frustrating. Obviously, last week, I didn't expect anything from them. I thought they were going to get absolutely destroyed. I know the Storm was sort of weakened, but the Cowboys played really well. Granville at fullback, but that's not the frustrating thing. The fact is they played that well last week, and they got super close to beating the team that nobody can beat this year and probably will win the whole comp. Yet they come up against a side like the Broncos, who they should destroy, and I don't think they will. I just really don't think they will. This is just the sort of side Cowboys are. Against the top sides, they can sort of aim up, but when they take on a team like the Broncos, I feel like the Broncos can really give it to them. Broncos are the same. They take on teams like Melbourne and Penrith, and they really aim up, and then they come up against a team like the Cowboys, and they sort of go into their shell for some reason, or they try too hard. I don't know what the explanation is, but they definitely don't play as good as what they can. Now, it's going to be interesting to see Tom Dearden take on the Broncos, the team that he left mid-season. Obviously, hasn't really done too much at the Cowboys. I don't really know what the future holds for Tom Dearden. Obviously, they've got Chad Townsend coming there next year. They've got Drinkwater there. I can't see him being in first grade. He hasn't shown enough for me to sort of get selected next year anyways, but a big game against the Broncos would definitely help his chances. He's up against Brodie Croft and Tyson Gamble, two guys who probably reserve grade standard, let's be honest. But Tyson Gamble in particular has actually been playing alright. He just has that little bit of mongrel the Broncos have been missing. Ever since probably like Josh Maguire, someone left, they haven't really had that, just, I don't know. I guess I'm sort of trying to say maybe like a bit of a lunatic, maybe a bit of a dickhead. I don't know the exact wording for that, but they've been missing it, and he's added into the side, and that's what a lot of these sides need. Teams like the Broncos who don't necessarily have the skills or the ability to beat the top sides, but if they can just ruffle a few feathers, they can sort of get under the skin of the opponent. That's what Tyson Gamble does. Now, in terms of picking a winner, it is hard to go past the Cowboys. Last week they were really good, and we have seen throughout the season they've actually been good in glimpses, where the Broncos, they played a game here and there where they've looked really good, but for the most part, they sort of have good moments in games and they fall away, whereas the Cowboys have actually been able to pick up some wins. They're in contention for the top 8. I thought Jake Granville actually looked really good at fullback. Maybe it's just a bit more stability because he's got good defence. He has played there before. Also, it could have been a case of, he got thrown in there last minute, no one's game plan to him. Alright, now we've got him there, we can game plan towards him and expose him. So it could be good, it could be bad, but I suppose they don't really have any other options. But like I said, in terms of picking a winner, I'm going to go the Cowboys. I'm going to go them 1-12. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I'm picking a lot of 1-12s after all these 13 pluses, but yeah, I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think the Cowboys will just edge them out just a little bit. Now moving on to Super Saturdays, the St. George Illawarra Dragons taking on the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Now this is 3 up against 8, and it definitely does not feel like that. The Dragons still feeling the effects of all the COVID breaches. They do have a very different side compared to the start of the season. Like Tyrell Sloan's in, Matt Fagay's in there, Corey Norman in the centres. They got Amoni, I don't know exact pronunciation. Jaden Sullivan's in there, Ben Hunt. This is a very, very different side, and they're coming up against a side in the Rabbitohs who's performing pretty well as of late, and we know when they want to, they can score points at will. So I just can't see this being good. Corey Norman, I don't think he's ever played centre. He's going to be coming up against Dane Gagai and Campbell Graham, two representative caliber centres, and you add in Latrell Mitchell there, look, Damien Cook, Cody Walker, Adam Round. I just can't see a way the Dragons don't get beat by at least 30. I really don't. I know they can defend half decent sometimes, but they've got a lot of youngsters in this side, and I know they might have some glimpses of magic, but I just can't see anything but a Rabbitohs hiding. So I'm going to go Rabbitohs 13+. I don't really need to cover this game too much. Like I said, a lot of youngsters for the Dragons, and for that reason, I'm going to be picking the Rabbitohs 13+. Now we move on to the second game of Saturdays, the Newcastle Knights taking on the Canberra Raiders. Now I actually think this one could be a really, really good clash. The Raiders have actually found a little bit of form. Knights haven't really found form, but they're getting a lot of players back. So Caleb Ponga's been back for a couple of weeks. I just saw Clemens back into the side, Mitchell Pearce is back in the side, and Bradman Best is back in the side. So that's 3 big ins for them, and they've really struggled in the backs. Their backs make so many errors. So getting Bradman Best back into the side, having Caleb Ponga back there again. You got David Clement with the go forward, adding the rest of their forwards who are already strong. And I just want to point out the fact that Mitchell Pearce hasn't actually been named in the number 7 or the number 6 or anything. They got Clifford and they got Phoenix Crosland. If Crosland does end up playing, I don't think the Knights can win. But if Mitchell Pearce plays, I think they win this one. The Raiders side have been very good, but I still think this Knights side, once they get all their troops back, they can be a very dangerous side in this comp. It's just a matter of just keeping them on the field, because they seem to get their strongest side, play 1 or 2 games, then all of a sudden 2 or 3 of them are out with an injury. But yeah, this Raiders side have been going quite well. They've been travelling well. They've been getting their form up to scratch. Josh Hodgson has been really good for them. And also they've been winning without Jack Whiten. So I don't know if that's a good or bad sign. I don't know if Jack Whiten stifles the attack, or I don't know what he does. stars, but as soon as he was out of the side, they started winning and they actually started performing. So Matt Frawley's got Jack Whiten's in this week. We'll see how they go. They could realistically kick it up a notch with Jack Whiten in the side and put a beat down on the Knights, or they could go back to how they've been playing for most of the season and play like shit and the Knights win. So it is hard to pick a winner out of this one. But look, if Mitchell Pearce does play, I'm going to go with the Knights. But the Raiders have actually been fairly consistent the last month or so. So I'm going to say Newcastle Knights. I'm going to go 1-12. I do think it's going to be another close one. Now moving on to probably the biggest, most high profile game of the round is Melbourne Storm taking on the Penrith Panthers. This is the grand final rematch that doesn't really feel like a grand final rematch. Now had it been probably like 5-6 weeks ago before the Origin had started, definitely would have been like, oh, this is a juicy clash. But now the Penrith Panthers absolutely depleted. Jerome Luai's back, but there's still no Nathan Cleary. Brian Toyer's out for them. He's going to be out for a little while. Also add in the fact that Fisher Harris is also out. I know there's a lot of talk about Pengai Jr. signing, but at the moment they don't have him. So he's going to be a huge loss for them. He is arguably the best forward in the whole game. So taking him out of any side is going to be a huge loss, let alone having to come up against a Melbourne Storm side, and a Storm side that didn't look very good last week. And usually if they don't play good the week before, they come out far and absolutely smash the next side. Now is it going to happen against Penrith? I don't necessarily think so. Penrith they've been getting wins without all their big guns, but they haven't been doing it in good fashion. And obviously it's going to take time to gel without Nathan Cleary in particular, because the whole game plan revolves around Nathan Cleary. So you take out your game plan, like you're going to have to go to your plan B. So that's what they're doing, and I don't necessarily think they had a plan B. So the fact that they've got so many injuries all at once, the whole Coruscant thing, I can't forget that too, the whole Coruscant part. So there's two big parts of your spine. And I know Matt Burton can do a fantastic job, but he's sort of getting chucked in the deep end. You take him out of the centre position he's been playing all season and expect him to come up against this Melbourne side. Now they did actually get a win with this same spine, I think it was. Dylan Edwards played really good. I don't know if Coruscant was playing back then, but it definitely was Jerome Luai and Matt Burton, and they actually got the win. That was the one where kick-out came and I think he knocked the ball out of Olam's hands as he went over to score the match winner after the siren, whatever it was. But yeah, this Melbourne side, they didn't play well last week, but they still got the job done, and they've got a whole bunch of guys coming back into the side. Munster's back, Finucane's back, Pappenhausen's got another week under his belt. I'm assuming they're not going to be trying to play Nico Hines in the hooker position again. Yeah, it's just the Storm were very disjointed last week, and I think they'll be back to their best this week. And unfortunately for Penrith, in my opinion, they're just going to be the next team to fall to the Storm. Obviously, they beat them to start the season. I think they're the only side who's beat the Storm throughout this season. So Penrith definitely can, and they are capable of winning, but I just can't see them doing it without Nathan Cleary. So I'm going to be going the Melbourne Storm 13+. Now moving on to our next game is the Canterbury-Bankstown Bulldogs taking on the Gold Coast Titans. I honestly don't even want to talk about this one. The Bulldogs side, they do get Adam Elliott. I'm just looking at their ins. Kyle Flanagan's back for him. Adam Elliott's in. Matt Dory's back in. I honestly just don't see any way the Bulldogs win this one. Luke Thompson's out. He's been our best player the whole year. He's our best forward. He is our only go forward. And without him in the side, I just can't see us winning. He's going to be out for 3 weeks. So I think just give us a spoon now. We'll throw in the towel. I think the Bulldogs side will try hard, but I just don't know what's going on. Like Kyle Flanagan's come back in. I know Lachlan Lewis had the brain snap at halftime, and it was definitely a brain snap, but he's actually been playing pretty decent. And I know they don't want him there next year, and Phil Gould's come in, and I wouldn't be surprised if Gould's come in and said, play Flanagan, let's try and develop him for next year. But this is not it. This is not the side. And the Titans, we saw how damaging they can be. Dave Fafita seems to be back at his best. I just can't see any way the Titans don't smash the Bulldogs. They already beat them this year, and that was with the Bulldogs in some half-decent form. And I say half-decent form, like that's half-decent form for the Bulldogs. So the Titans, they got a win last week. I think they're going to absolutely smash the Bulldogs. I'm expecting a 20+ victory, a 25+ victory. Now we move on to the last game of the round. It's the Cronulla-Sutherland Sharks taking on the Manly-Warringah Seagulls. I think it's actually going to be a really nice game. Now I think Manly's going to win this one. I think they'll win it well. I think their side's just travelling too well. They're just red hot at the moment. Tom Trbojevic is killing it, and they're coming into the finals. I wouldn't be surprised if they start resting players going forward, especially guys like Tom Trbojevic, because I think maybe they'll make a push for the top 4, but as long as they're in amongst the 8, I think they'll definitely be a chance of taking out the comp. But this Sharks side definitely has a lot to play for as well. Now, Sean Johnson went down last week. Huge blow for them. Now, they've moved Connor Tracy into the 5'8" position. He's partnering Trindle. So you've gone from having Sean Johnson and Matt Moylan, even Chad Townsend there, and they've released him early, and all 3 of those guys are now no longer in the side. And you've essentially got your 3rd or 4th stringers. So, look, I think if you're going to have 3rd or 4th stringers, you definitely want these guys. Connor Tracy has been fantastic in any position you put him in. You can chuck him in the prop position and do a job for you. He's so speedy, so nippy. He's got some nice hands on him. He's a very good player. And Trindle, he's still a bit raw. I haven't really seen too much from him, but I suppose he can do a job for him, but coming up against this Manly side, I can't see them beating Manly. But I can see it being a bit of a contest where the Sharks forwards really give it to the Manly side. But at the end of the day, I think Manly's going to win this one. I think they'll win it well. I can't tip against Manly at this point. With Tom Trbojevic in the side, Jake Trbojevic in the side, you know, Cherry Evans still there, Foran still there. They just have too much attacking firepower. There's just no way the Sharks can compete with that. So I think Manly are going to win this one. I think it's going to be 13 plus. Could even be like 20, 30 plus. I know the Sharks side have been playing alright, and I think it will be entertaining, but just the fact that Sean Johnson's out, I think it really shuts down the Sharks attack. And without the attack, I think the Sharks have got absolutely nothing to match this Manly side. So Manly 13 plus. Anyways, those are my tips and predictions for round 20. Leave in the comment section below. What are your tips? What are your predictions? Do you like mine? Do you hate mine? Do you rate it? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, make sure to go and give this video a like if you happen to enjoy it. Also, if you're new around here, make sure you subscribe as well. Turn on the notification. If you use the notification bell, you won't be missing any of my videos. So definitely go ahead and do that. Also, while you're at it, give me a follow on social media. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke and YT for the most part. My Facebook is just Mr. Luke, but everything else is Mr. Luke and YT, including Snapchat and TikTok. So go ahead, give me a follow, give me an ad, do all that sort of stuff. Also, I want to give a shout out to Drum Clothing. As I said at the start of the video, they've been nice enough to sponsor me on this channel, and they are the first sponsor I've ever had on this channel. So shout out to them. But yeah, that's where I'm going to end this video. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Stay tuned for more content on the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. See yous.